We're going to take a couple minutes today to go over an innovative and easy to use new product from Bona called Bona Red Out. Pretty self-explanatory, right? We've got a red oak floor here, and what we want to use this product for is to take the red or the pink hue out of it to make it look more like white oak, as that's one of the bigger trends out in the market today. But as you guys know, we have a ton of red oak that's been installed in the United States or all of North America for 50, 60, 70, 100 years. And there's an easy way now to make it look like white oak with this product and this process. So a few things we've got to do. One, we want to prep the floor correctly. So we've already sanded it 80 to 120 grit. We always take it up to 120, much like we do when we're going to stain the floor, and then we'll water pop it back, because that's kind of what this process really mimics, is water popping the floor. So we've done our final sanding with 120, and then a really important point is use your Tampico brush. Get all of that fine dust, as much as you can, out of the floor by using the Tampico brush instead of just straight up vacuuming, and then we're even going to dry tack it. Just as that final step to, again, get as much of that fine dust out of the floor. Because what you're going to see is if we don't do that with as open as red oak is, and then as we apply the product, we're going to start pulling more and more of that dust out of there. We'll tend to get more and more of a reaction across the floor, and then we might actually start leaving darker areas of color, which we're going to have to come back to and fix at a later time. So make sure you Tampico, make sure you dry tack, so that we get all of that dust out of the floor that we can. And then one last thing on our prep, we're going to do our pinless moisture meter. Because these are kind of water-based products and it's more of a water popping process. If we're really pressed tonight for time and we want to try to get this done in one day, definitely we want to use this to set our base, then come back when we're within 1 point of where we started. Then we know it's dry enough where we can go ahead and then put on our stain or one of our sealers or even craft oil. Usually we're going to let it dry overnight. But still, when I come back, I'm going to want to still take another pinless reading, make sure everything's good, that I'm back within that 1 percentage point, that it's dry enough to put on one of my products, so I don't have a reaction between the reactive stain that we just put on the floor and any of my sealers, stains, or finishes that I'm going to put on top. So that's our floor prep, and then getting our base reading. But now let's talk about protecting some other things. One, we definitely want to have some personal protective equipment on with these products. Don't want to get them on your skin. You definitely don't want to get them in your eyes. So we're going to make sure we have proper safety gloves and safety glasses or goggles. And if you wear glasses like I do, but these are not nearly big enough to cover enough of my eye space and really protect my eyes, I'm going to want to either wear specially made safety glasses to go with my eyeglasses, or some goggles just to really fully protect your eyes. And then we want to protect stuff not necessarily on the floor, but around the floor. Now, if we do have any metal vents or other metal pieces, maybe a fireplace register, something like that in the floor, you do want to protect that by taping it off and avoid getting these products on there because they will discolor the metal. Same thing with paint or trim work and stuff like that. When we're rolling this product on, you will see it flinging a little bit, and the faster you roll, the more you're going to fling stuff. You may just want to put it on with a cut-in pad if that's one of your concerns, but I think it's also easy to just go ahead and tape up your trim work. Use some of the plastic tape combination product that you can drape down. Protect about the lower 2 feet of your wall surface, and you should be good to go. So we're done prepping our room. We've prepped the floor by sanding it, Tampico, dry tack. We've got our pinless moisture reading so that we know what our base is. We've protected anything else around the floor. Now we're ready to go ahead and mix up some product, start putting it down. All right, so we're ready to go ahead and start applying our product. So we've got our applicators here. I've got a clean bucket. I've got my part A. And the first thing we want to make sure we do is stir this or shake it up really well. So shake the product up. And then while we're using it, you'll see that I'm going to be constantly kind of agitating it in the bucket with my roller when I'm dipping it down in there. You could also put a stir stick in here and just stir it, every once in a while, maybe every 5 minutes, because it will tend to settle out a little bit, and we want to make sure that we keep it mixed to get the proper reaction all the way across the floor. Roller-wise, you could use a 3/8 inch microfiber. You could use maybe a 1/4 inch. I like the 3/8 myself. And I'm going to be using that to dip and roll out the main part of the floor. And then I'm going to be smoothing everything else out with just a cut-in pad on the end of my stick like that. So let's go ahead and apply part A. We also want to make sure that we're getting about 450 to 650 square feet per gallon. And again, take care when you're using this product that you don't get it on your skin. Keep it from splashing in your eyes. So again, it's almost like water popping the floor. We could do it in sections, but I'm going to dip it and roll it as far as I can across the floor. Just trying to get it good and wetted out and applied evenly as I can with my roller. But again, I'm going to make sure to come back with my cut-in pad and even out each section as I do this. You can also use your cut-in pad to get against the walls to do your cutting in with. Some guys prefer to use a T-bar, which would also be fine, and that's the way a lot of guys go ahead and water pop their floors. But again, I'm just going to use this just to even out my puddles. And then, like I said, every time I go back to dip my roller back in, I'm going to make sure I'm getting it down to the bottom of that puddle just to make sure I'm agitating it and keeping everything nice and stirred up. I want to overlap previous sections just a little bit, again, to make sure we got full coverage and even coverage. And we'll just repeat this all the way across the floor. So you've seen in this section how we kind of work wall to wall all the way across, but now we're going to show you can also work it in sections. So to work my way out, we'll work a section here, work another section, then another section. We may have a little bit more overlapping, but usually the application of part B is going to take care of that. So understand that you can work it both ways. Typically, if you're doing a whole house and you've started in the back bedroom, by the time you work up all the way through the house, it's going to have had 10 or 15 minutes in that first room where we started. So you could walk back into it and get started right away. If you're doing a smaller area though, again, make sure you give it at least 10 or 15 minutes to have that full reaction. So the other thing is, you can see it's not fully dry. And that's okay. We don't want any standing puddles of product, but if there are some areas that are still kind of visibly damp, that's going to be okay. We're going to shake up part B again, and I've also got a new roller cover and new cut-in pad because we don't want to use the same ones, because again, we'll have an instant reaction on those if we're trying to use the same applicator tool. All right, so we'll shake up part B, and same thing, we're gonna wanna continue to mix this up as we're using it. So we'll just accomplish that when we're dipping our roller in there. And the process is gonna be the same. We're gonna roll each section out, smooth it with the cut-in pad, work our way across the room and out the door, and then we're gonna give it overnight to dry. or if we're pressed for time, we're gonna let it dry long enough till our base reading or our moisture reading gets back to within 1 percentage point of where we were before. So on this floor, we started, I think, at about 11%. So as soon as it got back to 12 on our moisture meter, we'd be good to go. And one more thing with our dry times is we do not want to add additional airflow on here. We want everything to dry nice and naturally and slowly. If you add artificial airflow, some spaces are going to, again, dry quicker than others, not have that same reaction time, and then we chance having a different color in the floor. So just let your airflow be natural and you'll be good to go. So part B is noticeably different looking in that it's completely clear versus a little bit opaque with the part A. And with the part B, probably the only keynote is make sure you use enough because this is what's neutralizing all this brownish gray tone now that the part A brought out. If we don't put enough down, we're going to have some areas of the floor that may still have too much color in them instead of being fully neutralized. So just make sure you're not skimping on the part B when you come to this point. All right, so we're back. We put down our Bona Red Out, part A and part B. We gave it an overnight dry. Ideal conditions are 60 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, 35 to 75% relative humidity. Anything colder or more humid, it may take a little longer, but what's the best way to know if it's dry enough to go ahead and put our stain sealer, craft oil on? That's with our pinless moisture meter. Right, so we have our base reading, let's say it's 11. As soon as we're back to within 1 percentage point, so we start at 11, as soon as we come back to 12, we know everything's dry enough to go ahead and put down our next option, which again is gonna be stain, one of our sealers, or perhaps even Bona craft oil. If we didn't take enough color out, if we still think we see a little too much, or maybe this is your first time, you didn't put on enough part A and part B, you can reapply the whole system, but you do both parts. So reapply part A, reapply part B, give it your dry times, and that will give you an increased effect as far as, you know, taking that red and pink and color out of the floor. But once we get to this point, again, we've got several options. If we want that water popped look, it's ready to go because of the water content of Bona Red Out. It does water pop the floor, so if that was your intent to begin with your stain color, you're ready to apply your stain. But if you don't want the water pop effect, or if you're going to put down one of the sealers, or perhaps just craft oil, you might want to smooth this out a little bit. So then we're going to take just a 1-inch thick red buffing pad, or maybe even a Bona conditioning pad, depending on the overall roughness of the floor, and you can go ahead and denib and smooth out that surface real quick. Probably using your Bona back vac attached to your buffer with that to pick up any of the dust, and do it quick, evenly, you know, and don't put a hip into it. If you do, you might expose some of that red oak color underneath and bring that back to the surface. And then don't forget to take off whatever pad you're using and do it around the sides and the detail areas where you can't reach with your buffer. So that's it, that's Bona Red Out. Easy to apply. It's really just like water popping. You know, we're applying the product, we're smoothing it out with our cut-in pad or a T-bar, letting it dry, putting down the next component to let it react also, and then we're done. So you can take any red oak floor, whether it's new or existing, take that red out of it and turn it into a beautiful white oak looking floor for you and your customers.